We'll see if that's true. I have to set this thing up higher because I'm like looking down at the camera and I don't like to do that. Let's see. You can see some of my ocean liner stuff in the background. Alright, Mark Raymond is here. Hello, Mark. Is that... Okay, sorry, I'm adjusting this thing. Hi, everybody. Hi. So, maybe I'll... There we go. Back up a little bit. Let's see. Alex, video idea. You could do a video on the RMS Niagara. It was the first passenger to use oil, not coal. Sank off the coast of New Zealand in 1940. Interesting. I'll look into it. Let's see. Everybody says we're back. Hello, hello, everybody. What's up, everybody? Hello. I do that to my friend all the time. Like, hello. Caden says, what's your favorite video series you've made? My favorite video series that I've made? The Queen Mary series, honestly. If I'm being totally honest, my favorite video series that I've made is the Queen Mary series because there's a lot of really cool information. I have written a list on my phone of like a ton of things that I could talk about on the Queen Mary series. Yeah, it's incredible. I haven't even made half the stuff on the list yet, and the list is still growing. So that's kind of the cool thing. Just letting everybody know who's barely tuning into the live stream. I had started a live stream like 15 minutes ago, and for some reason, the last couple months on my computer, the live streams haven't been working very well. There's constant glitching, and that's why I haven't done very many of them, because every time I go on a live stream, it doesn't work. So I was going on a hunch and thinking, you know, if I do this on my phone, I think it'll work out a lot better. So that's why I'm on my phone right now. But yeah, normally I like to have my computer do it, so that way I can show you guys cool things. Like I can pull up a picture and show it to you guys real quick and stuff like that. If I need to, go on Google Maps and show you things, but it just doesn't want to work out for some reason. Okay, so somebody talked about the Queen Mary. Aaron says, oh, speaking of the Queen Mary, I had the weirdest dream where I was on the Queen Mary and it looked in horrible condition and then the ship exploded and capsized. Okay. It's not too far off, but yeah. Let's see. Where did you get that shirt? It's cool. I got this shirt at Disneyland. It says like the original Disneyland on it. So, yeah, bought it at Disneyland while I was still there. I never wear it in public. I don't wear like t-shirts in public. I wear like button-up shirts in public. T-shirts for me is like an undershirt, and I wear it when I'm at home. Normally I even dress up for a live stream, but lately I've just been like, I don't have the time. Let's see. Hungry says, me and my family are getting a new kitchen and got an original menu from the RMS Franconia to hang on the wall. It's from 1925. That's pretty cool. Rubu says, if things go south, they should scan the Queen Mary in her entirety. So I guess you're saying in case the Queen Mary gets scrapped or damaged, that way a faithful replica could be rebuilt. I don't think anyone's ever going to build a replica of the Queen Mary. It's one thing to build a replica of the Titanic because that has gained so much fame over the years, especially because of James Cameron's movie. So there's a reason why people are building replicas of Titanic everywhere, but Queen Mary, I don't think so. Even if the Queen Mary were to get scrapped today, I think in a number of years, there won't be anyone who remembers the Queen Mary at all. I mean, it's sad because there's so much cool stories. Again, stories I've yet to make videos on that, that I wanted to share with people because I feel like I mean, a lot of Titanic fans are probably going to hate me for saying this, but the Queen Mary really has way more of an interesting story than Titanic. Now, that's not to put down or make light of the people who died on Titanic. I mean, in terms of technology, in terms of um, of story, in terms of the things that captivate people when it comes to, the interest of ocean liners. Queen Mary, honestly, is way more interesting in Titanic in that aspect. The only difference is that what made Titanic so famous was its sinking, which is really sad, I wouldn't want. I don't know, I feel like I told people this a million times, but I feel like if I was on the Titanic, I think I wouldn't want to feel like people only care about it because I died on it. You know what I mean? Like, I'd want people to be interested in the fact that, like, oh, maybe I died on the Titanic and they want to know more about me because I was a victim or something. But I guess a lot of people just really only care about the Titanic because people died on it, which is interesting. And I can't judge people for that, honestly. I mean, that's how I got interested in the Titanic. Let's be totally honest. Like, everybody does. Let's see. Charlie says, hi, Alex. Hello, Charlie. Hello, KSG Gamed. Hi, Keith. Keith says, you're getting a nice amount of views on your ship videos. Yeah, I am, honestly. My videos about ships are way more popular than my videos about Disneyland. Which is ironic because when I first started this channel, it was the Disneyland videos that were so popular. But I think what's going on is that since, like, when I first started on YouTube 5 years ago, pretty much, was it 5 years ago? Yeah. Pretty much 5 years ago. There was still a lot of Disney YouTubers, but not nearly as much as there are today. So I go on YouTube and I type in Disney, and like 200 channels pop up. And it wasn't like that when I first started. And so what's happening is, even though I'm producing really good Disney content, no one's watching because people look at my Matterhorn video and they go, oh, I've seen 20 videos about the Matterhorn. There's nothing this guy can do to surprise me. So they don't even click on it. They just pass it up. And as you guys know, you watch my video about the Matterhorn, and there's a ton of stuff that nobody's ever mentioned in their videos before. That's what I do. That's what I feel like makes my channel different from a lot of other people's, is I do, like, really serious digging into the research. But that's just the problem. No one watches the Disney content anymore because there's so much Disney content on YouTube. It's like there's nothing, there's nothing new for them, essentially. And so that becomes kind of a problem when you're running a YouTube channel. The worst thing that could happen to a YouTube channel is that the content dies. People don't want to watch it anymore. You have the tried and true viewers who come back day after day because they like what you do, but the majority of the viewers is the public, and the public, they get tired of things after a while. I keep moving this camera thing over here so you get a nice view of the Titanic and the Queen Mary stuff, but then it keeps migrating this way. So yeah, that's kind of the problem. But a year ago, I would have never thought about doing ocean liner videos. I was interested in ocean liners. I was interested in Titanic. I was interested in the Queen Mary. I was interested in a bunch of other things. But I was like, I'm not the kind of person that does that on this channel. And I was even considering making a separate channel for it. But I was just kind of like, why not? Like, this is a good channel for all kinds of history. I want to talk about anything that comes to my mind that interests me. Like, I can't guarantee I'm going to talk about, like, obscure little ships that once, ferried passengers between, I don't know, one city to the other. I don't know if I'll ever do that. It really depends on how interesting the story is. And so people, It's interesting because sometimes I get really good suggestions. I get like suggestions for ships that I'm like, oh wow, that's really interesting, and I want to cover it. Like my friend, he's the one that suggested the SS Princess Louise. I had never heard of that before. My friend uh, Steve, his channel is Expedition Steve. He was telling me, he's like, oh yeah, when I was a kid, I used to go eat at the Princess Louise restaurant, which was a ship docked in Los Angeles Harbor, and I was like, really? And I started looking it up, and when I read all about it, and I just did all this research, it came across as this really sad, almost murder story. So I was like, well, I want to cover that. I want to make a video about that and portray it as a murder story. And because, I mean, part of what I do isn't just telling history, I tell it in a storytelling fashion. It's my personal belief that the future of teaching history to people is by telling a story. So, yeah, anyway, before I keep ranting and ranting, um, Charlie says, can we talk about the Queen Mary, please? Yes, by all means, ask me anything you want to know. That's what I'm here for. Let's see. Jake says, Alex, what is your favorite place on the Queen Mary? Ooh, that's a good question. There's some places that I think would be my favorite that I haven't even been to yet because it was never open when I was there. But I think when it comes to places on the Queen Mary that I've been, I think my favorite place... Oh man, it's hard to say. I guess it would be it would have to be the main hall, which is also called Piccadilly Circus, on Promenade Deck. It's so beautiful there, and that's the top of the grand staircase and everything. It's so beautiful. I wished I could have seen it in its original 1936 glamour. Right now it has its 1947 leather paneled walls, and you know, that's cool that it's from 1947, but underneath the paneling is the original chestnut wood paneling that I wish I could see. And then the linoleum floors, the original linoleum floors looked awesome. I'd show you a picture, but I had to do this on my phone, so I don't have a picture of it for you. But the original linoleum floors are so beautiful, and they're not there anymore. It's the new, different design. But I think of places I haven't been on the Queen Mary yet. I think one of my favorite places would be... Ooh, that's a tough one. It would either have to be the first class main lounge, which I showed pictures of, but I've never been inside. And then there's a second class lounge that no longer exists, and it was on A deck, I believe, at the stern of the ship. And I've shown pictures of it before on my channel, and it was really beautiful in the 1930s. Doesn't exist anymore. So yeah, I think those would be like my two favorite places that I haven't visited yet. Benny and Jet says, what do you think of the new Toontown? Looks a lot better than the old Toontown. I can't wait for them to complete it. Let's see. Yeah, I'm also looking forward to seeing how they do the Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. Jennifer says, that's very appropriate to the Queen Mary. Men would wear t-shirts only under their button-up suits. You know what's funny is I've kind of really adopted the style of the 1930s. I really feel like that's kind of my style. So, you know, I'm going to be moving into my own studio apartment soon, hopefully, waiting for one apartment to go on the market. But when I do, like, I have all these, like, old things that I want to set up and use on a daily basis, you know, stuff that serves as both decoration and utilization. And, you know, probably behind me you can kind of see I have an old Queen Mary tea set. Maybe I'll show that to you in a minute or two if you want to see it, but it's a tea set that used to be used on the Queen Mary. I plan to use that every day for my afternoon tea. You know, that kind of thing. Like, I just kind of fell in love with the style. Uh, Vid Historical Film says, thank you for your well researched videos, fellow historian. Thank you so much. I try to do as the best job I can. I can't guarantee, you know, I can't guarantee perfection, but I certainly strive for it. Um, like the U.S. United States, no one really cares. I wouldn't say no one cares about the SS United States. I can't even tell you how many people comment about the SS United States on my channel. I think if everybody who cares about the SS United States had the money to help it, the SS United States would probably be a resounding success. The problem isn't that people don't care about it. The problem is that people don't have the money for it. It would cost about 800 million just to get it into any kind of hotel slash museum service. And it's an empty shell. And I think one of the reasons why no one wants to spend money on it isn't because they don't care, but is because there's nothing left to save. It's been completely gutted. All the walls, everything, all the fittings of the walls, I mean to say, everything is gone. The only thing that's left is the bare bones skeleton. Um, Even like the cabins don't even have walls anymore. They took the walls out of the cabins. So you go down the decks that used to have cabins, and it's a straight open room that stretches down the length of the entire ship because there's no walls left at all for those cabins. So there's nothing left to save on the SS United States, which, depending on the way you look at it, is either a blessing or a curse. It's probably a curse because if you want to preserve the ship, there's nothing to preserve. There's nothing left. But if you want to rebuild the ship into, I don't know, a floating casino, let's say, well, then you have a blank canvas to work with. So it really depends on who's looking at it for what purpose. And I think one of the sad things is that it's not that people don't care, it's that it's empty. So it's really hard to figure out what you're going to do with it. Queen Mary, on the other hand, still has a lot of her valuable paneling, fittings, artifacts. I mean, there are storage rooms on the ship that used to be cabins that are now just giant storage rooms, where they still keep a lot of the original 1936 furniture. They just piled it up into giant heaps. And a good furniture technician could easily restore the furniture. Nobody has. So that's the interesting thing, is that Queen Mary still has a lot of valuable stuff in it. Still looks the way it used to for the most part. And that's why there's more financial interest in the Queen Mary, because it's like a time capsule. So hopefully someone will do something about the SS United States, but I mean, I don't know. Let's see. Kaden says, what is your least favorite video series you have made? Least favorite video series I've made? I suppose it would be my Who Was Walt Disney series. With that, what I really wanted to do was I wanted to take my perspective of what I've learned about Walt Disney and show people what I see. Obviously, you know, we can't say for a fact who he was on the inside, because there's only a hint at who he was. As you know, if someone was to write a book about you, they might write a book about what they see about you. But if you read your own book, you'd be like, well, people don't know this and this and this about me. And that's exactly what's going on with Walt Disney. He never wrote a memoir. So we can only guess what he was like based off of what he's done and what we've seen him do and how he acted. But into his mind, we can only guess. And that was what I set out with that series to do. The problem is what I didn't foresee is that everybody has their own interpretation of who he was. So I'd make a video about my interpretation of who Walt Disney was, and everybody would either disagree with me because they don't like my perspective, or they disagree with me because they think that my perspective was not quite correct. And that was the funny thing, was that everybody has their own opinion of who he was and what he was like. And I think there's a spectrum of right and wrong. I think in the middle of that spectrum, I think, is where we can find what Walt Disney was really like. Then there's the extreme side where people say, he was this racist, evil guy. And then there is the opposite side of the spectrum where people are like, he was practically a god. And I'm in the middle going, he was just a man. He was a man who did both good things and bad things. He was both business-minded and family-minded. He was both, stern but loving. And so that's the thing, is I wanted to kind of portray that perspective, but it came at the wrong time. We live in an age where everybody is really polarized. So people either really love something or they really hate something. There's like almost no gray area. And so with that series, it just fell flat. Like no one wanted to watch it. They just didn't feel like what they were watching was really who Walt Disney was. Either because it wasn't good enough, or it didn't show him bad enough. And that was just the thing. I was like, that's disappointing, But that's okay. So yeah, that's... Charlie says, James Cameron needs to make a sequel to the Titanic called Queen Mary. I would love to see someone make a video about the Queen Mary, or even just a series. I know a lot of people have been suggesting, Alex, why don't you pitch an idea where Netflix could do like a show about the Queen Mary? Actually, it's funny people have mentioned that, because I've mentioned to a few people who I think could talk to people. And I've said, hey, what would really work well is if they did kind of like a Downton Abbey kind of thing, where it focuses on the lives of the servants and the crew of the Queen Mary, and then of course the passengers. And it could be a show where every episode is a little different because it's a different voyage every time. And it could be like Downton Abbey, but on the Queen Mary. So you got a little bit of drama, you got like a backstory line between the crew going, you've got new characters coming onto the ship every week because it's a different voyage. And I was like, that would be a really cool idea. And it, like, my biggest thing is like, I'm really starting to dislike how much attention the haunted aspect of the Queen Mary's getting. I made a video talking about, is the Queen Mary really haunted? And I wanted to discuss my opinion. My opinion is, basically, yeah, in a way it's haunted, but in my opinion, it's not quite as haunted as people think it is. Like, I don't believe there's a vortex of evil in the swimming pool. I don't believe that there is a menacing man that pulls the sheets off of people's beds or a dead crewman who tries to choke people at night. Like, I don't believe in any of that stuff. And half of the stories about the Queen Mary's hauntings are all made up by Disney in 1989 when they created their first haunted tour. It was all made up. I do believe, however, that when it comes to shadow figures, things being misplaced, doors opening by themselves and stuff, I do believe that it is haunted in that way. I was watching a video. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if the video creator is here right now watching. But his channel, I think, is named Skidoo. I don't know. That's how I read it, Skidoo. But it was really cool because on his channel he has different walkthroughs of different areas of the Queen Mary. And I was watching his channel, and at one point he went down to our deck, where the entrance to the swimming pool is on the left and the entrance to the main dining restaurant's on the right. And he was walking towards the end, and right on camera, he was only filming a tour of the ship. This wasn't about being haunted at all. It was just a tour of the ship. As he walks towards the end, he pans the camera to the right to go look, to turn around. He was basically going to turn around and go back the way he came. As he pans the camera to the right, all of a sudden, this cabinet against the wall, the door just opens like that by itself. There's no one else on that deck with him, just him. And immediately you hear him in the background kind of go, oh, like and he turns around and he leaves. But he mentioned in a little caption at the bottom of the screen how it just opened by itself. It had been sitting there closed the entire time, and it kind of freaked him out, so he left. But I was like, see, that is the kind of stuff I expect to see on the Queen Mary. I don't expect to see these crazy stories about drowning children and stuff like that. Like, that is overhyped. So, sorry, I did a little rant about that, but yeah, I do wish that people would stop focusing so much on how haunted these stories are or whatever. They're making a trilogy, a set of movies right now. It's a trilogy being made by I forget the director, but it's gonna be a trilogy of horror movies based on the most fantastic stories of the Queen Mary's haunting. And I'm like, I don't mind that, but the problem is that that's all anyone ever sees when they look at the Queen Mary. All they ever see is a giant vortex of terror. And I'm like, there is so much more to this ship than ghosts. Like, there is so much more. Like, the ship deserves to be known as something much more than a haunted house, Like, let's see. Hungry says, what do you like most about ocean liners? Size, speed, or luxury? I don't know. I suppose it would be, well, not even luxury. Because some ocean liners don't have luxury, and I still think they're beautiful. Like the SS Princess Louise. That was really more like if you were to class, separate into class, it would be second and third. But there was no first class accommodation on that ship. But it was a beautiful ship. And it was really just a ferry that goes long distances, but pretty much a person ferry, that goes between Vancouver and Alaska. And so, like, that ship doesn't have to be fast, big, or luxurious. It was just a cool ship. So I don't know. I don't think either of those things really play a big part in my mind. Because if I said luxury, then people go, but that means you like the Normandy, and I really don't. I don't think the Normandy looks luxurious to me. To me, Normandy looks kind of gaudy. And if you've never heard that word before, it basically means pretentious, overly fancy for the sake of being fancy. And that's why I don't like the Normandy. I think the Queen Mary is more luxurious than Normandy because of the fact that the luxury is understated on the Queen Mary. The service on the Queen Mary was better than Normandy. So when people say, Normandy was way more luxurious than Queen Mary, I go, if you consider diamonds and sparkly things luxury, well then fine. But the Queen Mary was all about its service. The Queen Mary's service was more luxurious than Normandy's service. So, I don't know. It's hard to say. Jake says, I am Titanic, Queen Mary ship, everything. That's good. Yeah, I think people should really look at more ships and stuff and kind of see what's out there. There's some really cool ships. Titanic is awesome, but how much do people know about her sister ships, Britannic and Olympic? Well, I mean, that really depends. If you're going to ask an ocean liner enthusiast, almost every ocean liner enthusiast knows about Olympic and Britannic. I mean, you go onto a Facebook page for ocean liner enthusiasts, you can't swing a dead cat without hitting someone who knows about Olympic and Britannic. But you go on the streets and ask people randomly, do you know Titanic? They'd say yes. Do you know Britannic? No. So, I mean, it's not that it's not known. It's just that, it's just like with anything, if you want to find people who know about it, you got to go to the communities that know about it. Let's see. Linda says, I actually became interested in the Titanic more after staying at the Queen Mary. That's pretty cool because a lot of people start off liking Titanic first, and then they discover the Queen Mary, like I did. Um, but yeah, I can definitely see how. Like, if people were to ask me, what do I prefer more? Do I think Titanic is better, or do I think Queen Mary is better between the two? I'd say Queen Mary. Titanic is pretty cool, but I think the Queen Mary is. I mean, this is going to be hard for people to believe, but I think the Queen Mary is more beautiful than the Titanic. And I think the Queen Mary has a lot more story to it, a lot more history. I mean, obviously, because it lasted for almost 90 years now. Um, so I actually prefer the Queen Mary over Titanic. But I still love Titanic. I mean, you can see my model of the Titanic right there. So I still love Titanic. Um, Henry Hall fan says, "Hello, Alex. Glad to see the stream back up." Thank you, Shiloh. Yeah, I had to start this new stream because the original one was like so glitchy. But it looks like this one's working just fine, so I'm glad. Uh, Charlie says, you were one of the first YouTubers. I was one of the first YouTubers, what? Not of all time, for sure. Uh, Jennifer says, can we see a home tour, Alex? I don't know. Not this home. When I get my new apartment, I think I'll do one. Um, because I'll have everything set up just the way I want it. Um, I live in, like, everything I own is in this bedroom right now. And though it's not a mess, it is full of things. And I don't like my bedroom to look full of stuff. So when I get my new apartment and all my stuff is more spread out throughout the apartment and it's nicely set up, I'll do a home tour then. People, Jake says people said that Lusitania was Titanic's sister. Oh my gosh. Mark Raymond says, I've narrowed my Disney vloggers down to 5. Most of them are I love me. Yeah, I gotta be careful what I say, but yeah, there are a lot of people out there who only love themselves. Linda Sully says, but your videos are better. I've watched others and always learned stuff. Oh, thank you. Caden says, your train's videos fascinated me. Thanks so much. Yeah, I plan to make more videos about other narrow gauge railroads, like in Oregon, Washington, that kind of thing. I have a friend who's kind of talking to me about one that I might do next. I don't think it's narrow gauge, actually. I think it's a standard gauge, but still, it's interesting. I only like steam railroads. I don't like diesel, modern stuff. I like everything before 1900. I feel like I need to sneeze. Jeez. Ruba Boy says, at least her lineage might live on. Queen Mary 2 is a respectable successor, in my opinion. I think so, too. I think a lot of people, like, they group the Queen Mary 2 in with other cruise ships, and they're like, oh, it's just a cruise ship. And it's like, no, it's... If you really look at the Queen Mary 2, it looks like an ocean liner. You can tell the difference if you just spend another few seconds looking at it. And yeah, it does look stacked up the way a cruise ship does, and that was out of necessity. They didn't actually originally plan for it to be so tall, but when they did their calculations and they were like, we need to make more money, the easiest way to do that was to stack the ship higher and higher during its design. But yeah, originally they were going to design it to be shorter. But yeah, I mean, the Queen Mary 2, you can tell it looks like an ocean liner. And it's the very last ocean liner out there, which I think is pretty cool. So one day, it would be like, it is like one of my biggest aspirations to go to England via Queen Mary 2. Because I want to film a bunch of stuff in England and make videos about it, but I don't want to get there by airplane. I hate planes. I'd rather take the Queen Mary 2, and I intend to do that. Just a matter of when. Jake says, I always watch your Disney videos, and I do learn stuff that there are only two Disney YouTubers I watch, is TPM Vids and you. Oh, thank you so much. Alex, which Queen Mary ghosts have you encountered? I don't think I've encountered any famous ghosts. I haven't seen much. I only saw one thing when I was there, and it was when I was in the propeller shaft rooms, and I think they call them shaft alleys. And I was in was it? I don't remember if it was port or starboard because there was no windows, so I can't see where I am. But it was on one of them, and I showed it in my video. But I was walking down the hallway, and I saw someone walking along the catwalk on the other side of the propeller shaft. And at first I thought it might have been a maintenance guy. I mean, this all happened within like a matter of seconds. So at first my brain registers it as another person, possibly a maintenance guy. But then I realized, I'm like, why would there be a maintenance guy over there? It's not like the ship is working. And I turned my head, and I saw the shadow, like a person walking down the catwalk. And it just faded away as I turned my head. It was just gone. And there was really nothing to tell. And my friends were nearby, and I thought maybe I'll tell them what I saw, but then I was like, no, I could have easily misconstrued what I saw. But then I later learned that actually a lot of people see that in that area. And some people believe it is the ghost of John Petter, the young man who died by getting partially crushed with the watertight door when it was closing. I don't know if what I saw was John Petter. I'd hate to... If I was John Petter, I think the last thing I would want is people saying that they saw my ghost. You know, like, I don't want people to, like, fantasize and make stories about my ghost. You know, like, that's why when people tell me, like, oh, Alex, you know, like, because I tell people Disneyland's haunted. I know Disneyland's haunted. I worked there for years. I've seen plenty of ghost activity that is without a shadow of a doubt that I know that Disneyland is haunted. When people tell me, Alex, Disneyland's haunted with Walt Disney, I go, I don't think it's haunted with Walt Disney. I don't. Even my friend Eric, he's like, well, I'd like to think that it is haunted by Walt Disney because he loves it so much. And I'm like, I don't think so. I'd like to think that Walt Disney doesn't haunt Disneyland because he's up in heaven with his daughters and his wife. You know, like, I wouldn't want to think that he is stuck in a perpetual land with strangers day after day. You know, like... So, anyway, that's kind of a rant. I rant a lot on this channel, just so you know. But yeah, I don't think what I saw was John Petter. I'm more inclined to believe I didn't understand what I saw. But it was weird how it had the shape of hands and arms and legs, and it was walking, and it just disappeared as I turned my head. I did think that was weird. But that's all I've seen. I haven't seen anything else on the Queen Mary. In fact, for a long time, I told people that the Queen Mary wasn't haunted because in the times that I have been there, I've never seen ghost activity. So I just didn't feel like there was. Keith says, I would be curious on what your thoughts are on the state of Disney. I'm absolutely disappointed how they seem to have lost their way. Money, money, money over the magic people loved about it. People love... Yeah. I mean, I'll just summarize it by saying I don't really like what Disney's doing. I don't support it. I don't plan to... I'm not going to say I don't plan to go again. I just don't plan to go often. You know, like, I do plan to visit Southern California sometime this year. I'll talk about that in a minute. Remind me about that, you guys. I was going to talk to you about my plan to visit Southern California. But I do plan to visit Southern California this year. I might spend the money to drop in on Disneyland for a day. But I'm not, like, yearning to go back. Because of all the stuff that the company's doing, I do not agree with it. I do not like it. You know, and I think that the company is going way off course, and it's just awful. It's just awful. Alex, your thumbnail was hilarious. The thumbnail for this video, yeah, because when I do a thumbnail for a live stream using my phone, it gives me the smallest little window to take the picture. I have to hold the phone like way out to fit my face in the screen, and I was like that trying to take the picture. It was really ridiculous. Um, Charlie says, "Can you do more videos on Bob Chapek's mismanagement?" No, I don't do that. I talk about history on my channel. I talk about fun stories and things. I don't talk about the politics of Disney. Um, because frankly, it's just depressing. It depresses me to think about it. Um, uh, let's see. Hello, Toby the Ocean Liner Builder. Uh, oh, Henry Hall fan says, "Can you show use the Cunard T? Yeah, the T service set. Let me grab that real quick." Okay, so, um, I have an obsession with Britain. Like, I really love England. My mom had an obsession with England too. She was, a self-professed Anglophile. She loved England. Um, and I am kind of the same way, which is why I love British ocean liners so much. People go like, "Oh, Alex, do you like the Italian line? Do you like the Hamburg American line?" I'm like, I don't. I'm really more of a British ocean liner person. I just love, England and Britain. So, I plan to have tea every day at my house. My new apartment. I plan to do like a afternoon tea every single day. And because of that, I thought, well, I'm gonna need a tea set. I don't want to just plop like a bag of tea in a mug, in a coffee mug. I mean, I can if I'm really thirsty and I just want a quick cup of tea, but I'd like to take a moment to relax. And I thought, 4 p.m. tea time is a great time to just relax. People have been doing it for hundreds of years. You take an hour to relax, eat some sandwiches, have some pastries, and have a cup of tea. So I thought I will buy the tea service from the Queen Mary, and Cunard ships. I can't guarantee this is from the Queen Mary, but it is from the time the Queen Mary was in service, and it is Cunard. So that's the top of it. I'm holding the lid down, but it's a cool little tea set with a little spout handle on the bottom. It says Foley, Bone China, Stone Ears, Liverpool, which is a city in England. And the crest says Cunard Steamship Company Limited. And if I take the lid off, inside it's hollow as you'd expect, but I found this interesting. This leads to the spout. So there's some holes here to prevent large chunks of tea from going through, and it leads to the spout, which I thought was pretty interesting. What I like about this tea set, and I'll show you a little bit more of it as we go along, is that the style isn't too, frilly, doesn't have flowers and stuff all over it. It's kind of my style, to be honest. It's weird, it's, cube-shaped, it's got, a simple little design to it. This is for the cream, believe it or not. So, holds the cream in there. Same thing, Stone Ears, Bone China, Cunard. This is the sugar bowl, if you can believe it. It's really small. You don't need that much sugar when you have tea, to be honest. And then, finally, without dropping everything, okay. Saucer for the tea and teacup. So it's just a neat little thing. Let's see if I can pick up a teacup correctly. This is the correct way to hold a teacup. Not this. You hold it like this. But anyway, yeah, so I thought, There's nothing wrong with taking a moment out of your day to have an afternoon lunch and have some tea, and I thought that's perfect. That actually suits my style perfectly. So when I get my new apartment, every day at 4 p.m. I'm going to have tea, and I think I'm going to do it on a live stream so people can actually interact with me while I have my break. So that's my Cunard tea service. I'm trying to catch up with all the comments. Mark says, has the Jacques Cousteau Museum on the Queen Mary closed? Yes, it closed years ago. It closed in the 70s, so almost 4 decades ago. Blue Ocean Liner says, Alex, what is your favorite ocean liner? The Queen Mary, of course. The Queen Mary is my favorite ocean liner of all time. Jennifer says, 1930s was a wonderful style. I think so, too. I mean, I'm not going to talk about the politics of 1930s. There's a whole lot of issues there. But I think the style of the 1930s is really cool. And the technology they invented back then was really groundbreaking. So I think it's amazing, you know, like, it's quite possible this tea set I have could date back to the 1930s, but it's more likely 1950s. But, Ruba Boy says, what are your thoughts on the Queen Mary 2? I think it's a beautiful ship for being a modern ship. I think it looks great. It's you can definitely tell it's an ocean liner. And it's kind of cool that if it wanted to, it could go 28 knots, which is pretty fast. Henry Hall says, could you also show us your wonderful Queen Mary ashtray and menu too? Oh gosh, that is... Oh, okay. Okay. This is a souvenir ashtray that was sold on the Queen Mary. This is probably also from the 1950s. The blue background is butterfly wings. And the Queen Mary that you see in the background is actually painted in reverse. So they had the glass out and they painted it on the back side of the glass and set it in place. So it's reverse painted. Yeah, pretty neat, and it stands like this on its little feet. But yeah, I keep it up here on display. One day I'll show you guys all my stuff, but yeah. Let's see. The menu isn't that interesting, I don't think, to most of you folks, but in case you want to know, the menu is from, is dated August 30th, 1939. It was the first day of the last voyage right before the war. That means just a few days later, on September 3rd, 1939, Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain declared war on Germany, and everybody who was on board the Queen Mary at the time on their way to New York had gathered around the various radios on board the Queen Mary to hear the declaration of war. So that's what the menu is from. It's from that last voyage. And I think it's really cool. And I will show it to you guys one day, but I don't want to do like a whole like show and tell thing. But what I do want to show you guys, because I haven't showed many people this, but this is a authentic postcard from the RMS Mauritania. It was once mailed to somebody. It is dated March 20th, 1911. 1911. So this is like one of the coolest little things I own. I would read this to you, but it's in half, I want to say half Polish, half English. So it's really hard. I've tried translating it, and because it's half and half, I actually can't translate it. Yeah, so this is an authentic postcard. What's cool about these is it's a photograph that was, what do they call that? Silk screened. It's a silk screened photograph. So it's a photograph that was silk screened with paint to make it colorized. Now, I would take it out of its sleeve, but most likely the paints used would contain arsenic for the red funnels and lead for the blue sky and water and white background. So it possibly contains both arsenic and lead. So I don't want to touch it. But Yeah, it's probably one of the coolest things I've owned. And yeah, again, it's from 1911. And even the stamp, the stamp is of King George V. He that year had succeeded his father, King Edward VII. So, yeah, this stamp is basically was one of the first stamps printed of King George V, the husband of Queen Mary, whom the ship RMS Queen Mary is named after. So one of my pretty cool little things, Mauritania also is part of the same Cunard company that the Queen Mary sailed under, and the Mauritania at one point held the blue ribbon of the Atlantic, which meant that it was the fastest ocean liner for about 19 years before it was taken over several times by a few other ships before eventually the blue ribbon was claimed by the Queen Mary. So kind of a cool little thing there. And again, I'll show you more of my stuff as I collect it over the years. Yeah, at the moment, I don't feel like taking everything down and bringing it over here. But if you're wondering why I have a hand truck just sitting there right by the side of the table there, I I bought that like a month ago to prepare for moving, and it only barely arrived today. And I'm like, oh, right, I don't know what I'm gonna do with this hand truck. Like, so it's just sitting here. I'll find a place for it before I go to sleep tonight. But let me catch up on some comments. I'll hungry. I'll do some research on the Norwegian American line, but I can't promise anything. It has to. The ships have to stand out. There has to be something about them that catches my interest. But I'll do some research on it. Just to let you guys know, if you suggest if you suggest video ideas, even if I found something interesting about the video, I probably wouldn't be able to get to it for a couple of months, because actually it takes a couple of months to do the research before I make these videos. It's not like I just quickly type up Wikipedia and then write up a script and make the video. Like, I literally take my time, I buy books, I research everything I do, I contact people. I contact people to corroborate what I read in my books and what I read online. If there is a person to corroborate with. So it takes months to make these videos. So if you don't immediately see the ships you're suggesting on my channel, it's not because necessarily I'm not doing it, which there's a high likely chance that I'm not going to do every ship, but it's probably because I'm still researching it. Like, you know, I still have a list of videos to do before I even get to recent suggestions. Angry Diver says, how is life? Life is good. I'm hoping to move into a new studio apartment in the coming month or two. We'll see. Let's see. RG autobiography. I think you're talking about Walt Disney. Walt didn't do an autobiography. He has a biography done by someone else, but not an autobiography. RG says Walt did know bad things. Well, he did. You can't say he didn't. He did do some bad things. He's not an evil person, though. He made poor decisions every once in a while. But, I mean, that's like saying that, me, like, I've done bad things. Like, come on, I'm a human, I make mistakes. Kaden says, have you seen Encanto? If you have, what do you think? I haven't seen it yet, to be honest. Mark says, I liked your Walt Disney series. Thank you so much. Jake Goodwin says Eric says, oh, he's talking to Jake Goodwin. Jake Goodwin says, High Seas is based on Queen. I've tried watching High Seas. I wouldn't say it's based on the Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth. They have shown similar images to it, but it's really very much a fantasy story, and I kind of thought it was boring, to be honest. I got through maybe 3 episodes, and I was like, I can't do this. I just thought the story wasn't really going anywhere. But me and my friend tried to watch it, and we thought it was pretty cool that they used a lot of images of Queen Elizabeth and Queen Mary on there. I had a lot of high hopes for that show, but it just wasn't that interesting to me. Um, Adam says, in your experience, where do various ship restoration communities fall with respect to the ship of Theseus problem? Like when would the Queen Mary cease to be the Queen Mary? Oh, I know what you're talking about. Um, where would it fall? Oh gosh, it's hard to say because, like, okay, like I'm a train enthusiast, and quite often if you have a steam locomotive that, let's say, has been abandoned for 50 years and you want to get it running, most likely the only thing that is going to remain of that abandoned locomotive sitting in the field, the only thing that's going to last is maybe the wheels, the cylinders and piston rods, the eccentric rods, and maybe some hands, some like hand levers and things like that. But everything else, like the boiler, the stack, the boiler casing, the cab of the locomotive, the couplers, everything else will have to be replaced. So the question is, does that make that locomotive still the same, or is it a new locomotive with old stuff on it? And that's hard. That's hard to say. Now, the Queen Mary, I think, is a long way from that point, because let me put it this way: it's not like the ship needs to be rebuilt. Honestly, the work that needs to be done is more like permanent patchwork. So it's not like they have to rebuild whole decks of the ship or anything like that. They don't need to tear out all the wall paneling and all that. The Queen Mary, it's had things removed from it and very little added to it. Um, but it's still like what you see, like 95% of it is original, and like the other 5% is stuff that they've added. So, like the funnels, it no longer has its original funnels, it has kind of cruddy replicas of its original funnels. Um, but I think it's a long way off. So I think restoration of an old steam locomotive falls more on the is it still old or is it not kind of thing than the Queen Mary does. Um, everyone's commenting about my Downton Abbey idea. uh, let's see. Wow, Britannic had about 3 million rivets. That's pretty cool because Queen Mary had 10 million. So it's interesting to think that the ship was only like 100 feet longer than Britannic, and yet it has way more rivets. But that's interesting. I mean, I'm sure it makes sense, but I'm just commenting. Um, Happy New Year to you too, Everett. Hello from Ink and Paint, says YouTube. Hello, Alex. What's your opinion on the ship SS Keewatin? Feel free to search it up if you haven't heard of it. Believe it or not, it hasn't been scrapped yet, and it was built in 1907. SS Keewatin. I'll look it up real quick. SS Keewatin. That looks like one of the Princess ships. Did it used to be part of the Princess line? It's interesting looking. It's not bad. I've seen some pretty ugly ships from back then, but it's pretty interesting looking. Oh my gosh, the interior is still... Does it still have its original interiors? Oh, see, this is why I wished I had you guys on my computer so I could show you what I'm looking at. This is beautiful. This is a beautiful little ship. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, I'm gonna have to do some digging about this ship. This looks beautiful. It looks like a White Star Line ship. It's... Oh my gosh. Where is this? I gotta know where this is. Ontario, Canada? I think I'm pretty far from Ontario. I'd visit it if I wasn't so far, but that's really cool. I think it was probably one of the princess ships at one point, right? Because or at least part of, no. Oh, okay, so it was part of Canadian Pacific Railway's ships, but it wasn't their princess ships. Okay, so that part I can see already. I'll do some digging about that ship because it looks beautiful. It looks absolutely beautiful. That I can already see is going to make a good story because it's still here. Thank you so much, Zom Games. Thank you so much. Jake Goodwin says, Alex, you should live stream on the new update to Titanic Honor and Glory 401. Actually, I will, because I want to show everybody the second and third class areas as well as the night mode. So I will be doing a lot more live streams, not just one, but more of the Titanic Honor and Glory walkthroughs, because I think that's such a fun demo. Like, it's going to be really cool. And eventually when they release the free alpha versions, like, of the actual game, they're going to do it piece by piece. So they're going to have, like, the forecastle deck, which, for those of you who don't know, is right there, the forwardmost top deck of the bow. So they're going to release the forecastle deck first and then move on through B deck with the actual game, like full-on Unreal Engine 5, everything. When they do that, I'm also going to live stream my experience on that. Michael C. says, so what is your stronger interest, Disneyland history or ship history? That's hard to say because at the moment, my stronger interest is ocean liner history. But that's not to say that it never was Disneyland. Disneyland used to be my topmost interest. But after almost 20 years of researching it like crazy, I've learned so much about it, I almost can never find new things that I don't know. And so it's like, you know, there's not really much new that interests me about Disneyland anymore. So ocean liners are my new thing because there's so much I don't know about them. And I just want to learn. YouTube says, I bought a 1/200 Titanic model thanks to you. Oh, wow. Yeah, is that the trumpeter one? I wanted to buy that because I have a 1/350th scale back there. It's 29 inches long, but the trumpeter model is almost 4 feet long, and I wanted it, but I was like looking around at my room. I'm like, I don't have much room for things to display. Like you saw earlier in the live stream, my tea set was just sitting in front of the Titanic. I had nowhere to put my tea set. Like, I don't have enough shelves and things, and I don't like my room to look too cluttered, so I don't have that many shelves. So I had nowhere to put the trumpeter model. So Eric says, now here's a random thought. Why hasn't the Queen Mary been relocated to a better location over the years? I would have moved here near to the Aquarium of the Pacific, more convenient location. Well, here's the thing about that. The Queen Mary isn't just sitting, like, at a random location. It's surrounded by 43 acres of land that belongs to the Queen Mary ship area now. So if you move it across the bay, it's not going to own any land anymore. It's just going to be next to the aquarium. And yeah, maybe that might get more foot traffic, but will it really become more successful because of that? I don't think so. All it takes is getting across the river to get to the Queen Mary. The other thing too is you have to think about the views. One of the things that really sells about the Queen Mary hotel is you look out the window and you see the harbor and downtown from the window. If you move the ship across the water, you look out the window and you see an ocean terminal and some, you know, like, what do you call that? Where they unload cargo. And so when they book the ships for the Queen Mary, they try to give everyone the harbor view. But if you put the ship on the other side, it's not going to get that good a view. So, but the other thing too is where the ship is, it sits around 43 acres of land. You can develop that land into something really cool. It's just no one's done it yet. And don't try to tell me Disney tried to do it. Disney didn't really care that much. They gave up on the project very quickly because honestly they just didn't care. They knew that they had land. They thought, oh well, since we have this land, we might as well try to try to take advantage of it. And then when it didn't work out, they, instead of trying to work around it, they were just like, all right, fine, bye. And they left. Disney didn't try. So, but there is 43 acres of land that they could develop around the ship. I have so many ideas for what they could do with it, but, you know, I'm not really that kind of influential person. Keith says, have you ever thought of delving into other historical events? Great Gold Rush, Lewis and Clark. I think your style would do those justice. I wouldn't say events. I don't like historical events. I like things. I like steam history. That's really what I'm more interested in, is steam history. If the stuff that I talk about happens to be among events, then that's one thing, but I personally don't see myself discussing the gold rush and stuff. Robert Villanueva says, would you say that the old cruise ships look like small little tugboats compared to the modern ships? I mean, that's like saying, you know, does a child look like, I don't know, a puppy next to the size of a person? It's like, yeah, children are small. Yeah, these ocean liners are small. It's kind of a funny way of putting it. But, yeah, they're small. Jake Goodwin says, Alex, did you know that the Queen Mary 2 on its flagpole had the white Star Line flag on board for the whole trip? The whole trip where? Like every trip? Or just one trip? And which trip would that be? Eric says, since you said you hate planes, does that mean that you hate my golden... I never said I hate planes. We're going to visit the Queen Mary when she reopens. So thank you, Evan, for reminding me. Yes. The Queen Mary should reopen, I believe, at the start of summer. If everything goes well, things could change. We'll see. But if it looks like it's going to reopen at the start of summer, I'm going to be there. What I'm going to be doing is I plan to actually rent a room on the Queen Mary if it's open as a hotel. It might only be open as a tourist attraction. Because while they are making repairs to allow people back on board, I don't think they're making repairs to the things that make the hotel work, like the boiler for supplying hot water for showers and stuff like that. So I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But I do plan to try to rent a room, stay on the ship for... I think I have to be there for a week because I'm going to be taking a train down, and the train only goes once a week. So, so I think I'm going to spend a week on the ship. I'm going to film as much of the ship as I possibly can. So, that's what I want to do. And I have a friend who wants to do that with me. He also wants to film the ship. Jason Boyles, thank you so much for the $10. Jason says, I really loved your tropical hideaway video. All the history I knew from reading about the Tahitian terrace. You filled in a lot of blanks and answered the questions I had about, I presume. Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, the tropical hideaway video was one I wanted to do for a long time because there's so much information about it, but not a lot of people know it. And it's often scattered information. Okay. Chris with a K says, can you do a video on why the Queen Mary sank? No, Chris. It didn't sink yet. Let's see. trying to catch up here. Everyone's talking about the tea set. Yes, the tea set does have the stamp of its maker. It was made in Liverpool, England, specifically for the Cunard line. It's not Japanese, but it is real bone china, meaning that it's made of the same clay material that China is made of. So it's made of that, but it was made in England back in probably most likely the 1950s. I'm hoping, who knows, it could date back to the 1930s, but I don't know. Expedition Steve says Alex makes the best beignets. Yeah, I used to make beignets at my old cafe, and Steve would always drop by and he'd have beignets. That was his favorite thing to order. Let's see. Thorgrim says, it's sad how the Queen Elizabeth foundered. It really is. Because, like, a year ago, I didn't really appreciate the Queen Elizabeth that much, but I've been getting more and more into the Queen Elizabeth and kind of understanding what it looked like, and it's really sad that it burned and just sank into the water. Like, it would have been a great, like alternate place to visit after seeing the Queen Mary and just, I don't know, flying somewhere, wherever it would be kept, and visiting the Queen Elizabeth. That would have been really cool, but no longer exists. Michael C. says, I like that you speak your mind about how Disney hasn't been your cup of tea lately. A lot of these vloggers promote Disney so hard and don't call them out on when they are doing things in bad taste. I agree. There's some YouTubers who you can tell they want to call out Disney. They want to so bad. But then at the end, they don't want to sound negative. So they go back on it and they go, oh, but I still love Disney. And it's like, come on, you gotta speak your mind. You gotta say, like, when Disney's doing something wrong, you gotta say it. I never, ever backed Disney 100%. Yeah, I'm a Disney history fan, but the key word there is history. I don't like the Disney company as it is today. I don't like how it is. I don't like the commercialization. Half the movies they make, I don't even bother watching. I don't like the movies that they make. I'm sorry, people. I don't mean to disappoint you, but I don't like the modern Disney movies. I still watch the stuff from when I was a kid, but the last decade, I don't watch anything from the last decade. I don't like it. I don't think it's good. And I don't judge people who do. I mean, I don't like Frozen. My sister loves Frozen. She watches Frozen. I don't make fun of her for it. She loves Frozen. I just don't like Frozen. But, but the thing is when the company treats its fan base the way it has, it's really shameful. The fan base is what made Disney what it is today. And they're like, okay, well, now we have so many people that love us, we don't need the fan base anymore. Which is exactly what I told people was going to happen a couple of years ago. I said, one of these days, Disney's going to drop the annual pass system because they realize they don't need annual pass holders anymore. They have so many people coming in every day. They don't need annual pass holders to keep them busy. And I was like, they're going to drop the annual pass holders, and then they're going to charge everybody a crazy amount of money for every little thing. They're going to nickel and dime them. Like, everyone back then said, oh, they nickel and dime us. I'm like, you just wait. You're going to be paying to go on rides. People didn't believe me when I said that. I said, just you wait. I said, you're going to be paying to go on rides, even though you paid admission for the park. And people didn't believe me, and then it happened. And I'm sorry that it happened. But the thing is that I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I love Disney. Disney's the greatest company in the world. It's like, no. I left Disney for a reason. I used to work for them. They were the worst employers I ever had. They were a terrible company to work for. Terrible. Like, the way that they treated people was inhumane. Just inhumane. Not enough cast members talk about how awful it is. In fact, there's some cast members who are so brainwashed into loving Disney that they see these bad things happen and they go, oh, well, sometimes Disney has to take things away. And it's like, no, you don't need to defend them. They're treating you like crap. You deserve better. it's really sad, seeing these cast members. They're just trying to make a living, to go home and feed their families and keep their heads above the water. And yeah, Disney's a company. I know people are going to be right now like, well, Disney's a company. You can't treat them like a person. It's like, yeah, you're right. Disney is a company. They need to make money. One of the simplest ways to make money is not to pay people enough, not to give them free things and stuff like that. But this is Disney. Walt treated his cast members better than this. No, Walt was not famous for paying people good amounts of money. That's true. Rolly Crump, famous Disney Imagineer, he worked two jobs. Not only was he an Imagineer, but he also worked as a construction worker, installing manholes in city streets, because he couldn't afford living just on a Disney salary. That's true. Why did he stay at Imagineering? Well, he'll openly admit, because Walt was a good employer. Aside from the money thing, he felt like he was working at a good place for a good reason. He was treated with respect. He had peers that he liked. It was a good environment otherwise. I think that is the least that could be done at Disney. If you're not going to pay people a reasonably fair amount, treat them with respect at least. Treat them with respect because they come in despite the fact that they're earning a pittance and a wage. But they can't even do that. I worked with people at Disney who were bullies. Bullies. Just straight up bullies. And I said one of them, I said, dude, Ivan, I'm like, you know what it's like to work for this company. It's hard. I said, there's people everywhere here who want to sabotage you for no reason just because you're good at what you do. I said, so why would you treat me like that? I said, well, I haven't done anything wrong to you. Why would you, report me to the managers for random things like not smiling when I wave at someone or something? Why would you do that? Why would you make my employment here harder than it needs to be? He didn't have an answer for it, but I knew his answer. His answer was because he was treated that way, so he wants someone else to feel that way. That's sad. That's when I was like, I'm done with this company for good. I'm out of here. And I left. Never went back. Didn't want to. It's one of the worst places I ever worked in my life. I'll give you one thing, though. Cleanest kitchens in any company I've ever worked for. I've worked for many different restaurants and stuff. Disney had the cleanest kitchens. You could lick that floor, and it wouldn't have killed you. Wouldn't have been good, but it wouldn't have killed you. I'll give them that. Let's see. Normandy never did much for me. Too avant-garde and way ahead of its time. I feel like the Queen Mary was a true classic liner design. Honestly, I don't want to bring down the Normandy people because the Normandy does have its good points. Sorry, my lips are really dry. The Normandy had a really great propulsion system. It was let's see, Queen Mary had a single reduction gear. I think Normandy had a double reduction gear, which was kind of a big thing at the time. Meant that more power could go towards its propulsion. It had gyroscopic stabilizers. It had cool stuff like that, but the style of Normandy is just gaudy. It's too over the top. It doesn't feel authentic. That's the thing. It feels like it's trying to impress people too much. It was like I told my friend, I was going through this mall once, a long time ago, South Coast Plaza, one of the fanciest malls in America. And I was passing by this shop where they sold, like, running shoes. And the shoes were all covered in gold and jewelry, and it was, like, all super fancy looking. It looked like it didn't have taste. It was lacking taste. And that's what I think about Normandy. When I look at Normandy, everyone goes, but Normandy is the pinnacle of the Art Deco style. I'm like, no. Empire State Building is the pinnacle of Art Deco style. The Queen Mary is the pinnacle of Art Deco style. It encapsulates what Art Deco style is. The Normandy takes it and dials it up to 50. And it doesn't look like authentic Art Deco. It looks like someone was just like, okay, I'm going to try really hard to knock the socks off of people. and it just comes off as inauthentic and gaudy. That's why I don't like the Normandy that much. And when I look at the outside of the Normandy, the funnels drive me crazy. They look weird. There's one of the things I love about, Titanic and the Queen Mary and Mauritania is they have these really cool uh, uh, air intakes, ventilation intakes on top. I actually think that looks cool on a ship. Normandy didn't have that because that was one of their selling points, is we don't have all these air vents and stuff in your way. You get a good view of the ocean. Great, but then you lose that thing that makes ocean liners look like ocean liners. Now it just looks like a modern cruise ship. Normandy was really ahead of its time, I'll give it that, but I don't think Normandy looks that good. I really don't. Let's see. Alex is glowing today. I don't know what that means. Tom Clark, interesting. He's in the zone. Ships ahoy. Best to do it right. Love your vids, Alex. Long live the Queen. Thank you so much, Squid Games. Love your show. Aaron Estrada says trains, planes, and automobiles. Maybe not automobiles, but trains and planes, certainly. And ocean liners. Trains, planes, and no, not even planes. Trains and ocean liners. That's what I like. What option have the city of Long Beach chosen for the Queen Mary? I'm guessing you mean the restoration. They haven't officially chosen yet. The options were 25-year restoration or 100-year restoration. They haven't chose yet because, frankly, they don't have the money. They need to find someone who does. So until they can find someone who has the money, they can't make that decision. They are going to be doing basic repairs on the Queen Mary to keep it viable for another 2 years. But after those 2 years, a decision must be made. So they're going to need the next 2 years to figure out where they're going to get the money for the Queen Mary. Now, I work with the Queen Mary International Foundation, the only 501c nonprofit that is purely dedicated to preserving the Queen Mary. I met some of the members several months ago, and we got to talking about the ship, and I said, hey, if there's anything I can do to help you guys get the word out, I'm there. And that's what I do. Thing is that Queen Mary International Foundation, they want to assist the city with finding financial funding to repair the ship. But there isn't much word as to what the city plans to do. They've met with Queen Mary International Foundation. They held a meeting on the Queen Mary, but there hasn't been much feedback since then. It's really hard to help someone who isn't telling you what they need help with. You can lend someone a hand, but if they don't grab your hand, you can't help them. So that's what's going on right now. Queen Mary International Foundation is saying, look, we are willing to give you guys a hand finding the funding to repair the Queen Mary, or even do one little project. They're willing to help. But they can't just go in there, pockets full of money and say, here, fix it. They need the city to go, okay, here is the plan. They need transparency. They need, because if people are going to donate to Queen Mary International Foundation, they're going to want to know where their money's going. They're going to want to know that $100 they donated is going to, I don't know, repair an original lifeboat or fix the teak decks on the ship. People want to know where their money's going. And so Queen Mary International Foundation, they need that guarantee from the city of Long Beach that they'll have full transparency. That's the only thing that they're asking for in return is full transparency. So we'll see. If the city of Long Beach is watching, I doubt they've watched an hour and 24 minutes of this, but if they're watching, reach out to Queen Mary International Foundation. We have people who can help look for funding. You've got me, I can use my YouTube channel to help drum up support. I can make interesting content that appeals to a wide audience who care about ocean liners, who have the money to help with projects. But you gotta take our hand, you know? So, just a little message. Let's see. Hungry says, well, it's 2 a.m. here in Norway, so I'll have to say bye. Bye. By the way, I love Norway. I think it's a beautiful country. Kenneth says, Alex, best thing about you is that you're humble, and because of that, it makes your content enjoyable and not pretentious. Thank you so much. You know, like, sometimes I have fancy taste. I mean, come on. I bought an authentic tea set. How much fancier? But, you know, I like to think I'm a pretty grounded person. I can talk to the average person, and, you know, and I never judge people for not knowing something. I've seen so many people do what they call gatekeeping, which is like, someone talks about an ocean liner and the other person's like, oh, you don't know anything about ocean liners. And it's like, don't talk to someone like that. You know, like, everybody starts off interested in a subject and they don't know much about it. I'm the same way. A couple years ago, I didn't know much about the Queen Mary. And I wanted to talk so much with people, and everybody was shutting me out. They were like, no, you know, you don't know anything about the ship, so I'm not going to bother with you. I, you know, met a cool person, Shiloh, from Henry Hall Fan, the channel. He's talked to me about Queen Mary since then. I've learned so much about the ship, and then I went and bought a whole bunch of books and things and started digging, and, you know, so that's the thing, is I don't like people who are pretentious and who are gatekeepers, so to speak. I think everybody, if you're interested in a subject, people should be supportive of that, you know. Let's see. RG says, what ghost activity have you seen in Disneyland? I have 3 videos about that, so you can actually go to my channel, look up Haunted Disneyland, an eyewitness story, as I think it's what it's called, is the first part, and there's a 3-part series on it, so you can watch it. Alright. Squid Game says, are you doing more of the 401 Titanic Honor and Glory demo? Yes. 2 days from now, so what day is that? Well, New Year's Day, Saturday. I will be doing, as soon as I download the updated version, I will be filming myself going through the Titanic and seeing the new areas and stuff like that. I'm going to keep making more, not just one, but I'm going to keep making more videos exploring Titanic and stuff as well. Just part of the regular content of the channel. I would do it as a live stream, but for some reason my computer lately has not liked to do live streams. So I'm just going to have to pre-record it and upload it. Squid Game says, how many times have you stayed aboard the Queen Mary? Never. Sorry, it took me a moment to think about that. Never. I have visited the Queen Mary 3 times in my life. The last time was January 2020. That's when I filmed all that stuff that I filmed on the ship. I still need to film a lot more. But I have never stayed on the Queen Mary. But I have wanted to. The last 2 years, I've really wanted to stay. So if the Queen Mary opens this coming summer, I'm going to go there, I'm going to book a room, I'm going to stay on the ship, because I want to be immersed. A lot of you are ocean liner fans, so you tell me if you agree, but when you're an ocean liner fan, you get so entranced with the old ocean liner world. You want to be immersed in it. You know, like, the Queen Mary is the same way for me. Like, when I think about the Queen Mary and the beautiful architecture and the stories and everything, I want to be immersed in it. I want to stay on the ship and feel like I'm living in that world, if only for a week, you know, like. And I feel like a lot of people can get into that if the people operating the Queen Mary would just offer some good experiences that people are willing to spend money on. You know, I'm a crazy Queen Mary fan, so of course I'm going to waste a stupid amount of money going to the ship, but the average person, you know, taking their family on a weekend trip to see the ship, they're not going to like what they see if they're spending exorbitant amounts of money on stuff that isn't worth it. So they need to upgrade the ship with some, things that modern people will enjoy. And I will make a video on my ideas soon, with like artistic renderings and stuff of things I think might work. Um, uh, Savannah says, can you talk more about the 1939 Long Beach feces incident? I've never heard of that. Feces. That sounds terrible. Um, Charlie says, is the lamp behind you from the Queen Mary? No, it is a cheap lamp from Amazon. Unless you're talking about the little one, which is also a cheap lamp from Amazon. Uh, I wish I had a lamp from the Queen Mary or something, but at the same time, it probably should stay on the Queen Mary. NCC says, will you ever do a video on the RMS Mauritania? Yes, eventually I will. I have a few books on the Mauritania right now. I haven't gotten to them yet because I'm still finishing a few books about the Queen Mary so I can talk about the war years. But yes, eventually I will get on the Mauritania. I have a book about the Oceanic as well, so I'm still going through that. I have a few books about other random ocean liners and stuff. So I'm spread thin right now, but I do have the research here that I can kind of go through it and see. Pinchy says, what got you interested in talking about ocean liners like Titanic and Queen Mary? Enjoyed your videos in Disneyland, especially Disneyland Railroad. Thank you. Well, what got me interested was the movie Titanic. So when I was a little kid, I went to see the Titanic in theaters. Was I little? I wasn't that little, but I was little. Went to see Titanic in theaters. They had a version of it that was, they cut out the dirty scenes so that way families can go see the movie. They actually did that back then. And I went to go see the movie with my grandpa, so my sister was there too. But we went to see Titanic, and again, it didn't have the dirty scenes in it, but it was a good movie, and I was amazed by it. So I immediately became amazed by Titanic, and for a couple decades, I was obsessed with Titanic, and I had visited the Queen Mary in that time about twice, but because at the time I visited the Queen Mary, I did it because I thought the Queen Mary was basically like a relative to the Titanic. So I wasn't there because of the Queen Mary. I was there because it was the closest thing you had to Titanic. And the third time I went to visit the Queen Mary is when I became really hooked, because the third time was in, again, January 2020, just before the pandemic hit. And I thought, it'd be really, because my friend Chris was really interested in Queen Mary, and he said, hey, we should all hang out at the Queen Mary. And I thought, I haven't been to the Queen Mary in a decade. I said, it'd be kind of fun to go, and so I said yes. I said, I'll go, and then my other friend Steve said he'll go. So the three of us, we went to the Queen Mary, and I thought I would film a vlog there. And that's what originally I did. I filmed vlogs back then. So I was like, I'll film a vlog, just my experience walking around the ship and whatever. And as we walked around the ship, it just clicked. It was just like, I was into it. I was like, this old ship is so beautiful. And despite its rust, despite the carpets falling apart, stuff like that, I was like, this ship is still alive. Like, you can feel it, it's not, like, people like to describe it as this sad relic that needs to be put out of its misery, and I'm like, if you go to the Queen Mary, it still feels alive. It still feels like there's something there that's holding on, and it wants to be relevant again. And so I just had this sensation that the Queen Mary doesn't have enough presence in the modern day world. Not enough people are talking about it. I felt like it wanted me to help with that. So that's why I was like, I'm going to start up a video series where I talk about the Queen Mary. It'll be a series of its own. All topics, anything to do with Queen Mary. And that's what I do, and I still do it. Um, so that's my goal. It's to bring it up. But while I was doing research on the Queen Mary and stuff, I got interested in other ships like Mauritania and Oceanic, SS Rex. Uh, yeah, I can't think of anything. Recently, I was reading some stuff about the Kaiser Wilhelm, not de Grosse, the older one, Kaiser Wilhelm II, I think it's called. Yeah, beautiful ship. Predated Titanic by maybe 10 years. Um, so I've gotten into ocean liners since then. That's what started me off was Titanic. And a lot of ocean liner fans started off that way too. Titanic is what got them interested, and now they have this big interest in ocean liners in general. I'm still mostly a fan of British ocean liners though. That's mainly my thing. For some reason, I don't like the way the the other European lines look. The outside, I mean. The outside of those ships don't look very good, but the British ocean liners look great on the outside, mostly. I mean, I know Aquitania is supposed to be the ship beautiful, but it looks like the ship ugly to me, on the outside at least. Um, uh, okay, let's see. And she says, "Have you decided to quit on model railroading?" No, I haven't decided to quit. I currently rent a room from my sister, so this room is all I have to me. There's no room to build a model railroad here. It's too small. Like, I have my desk here, I have my bed right here, I have my door right behind the camera, and then this is the corner of my room. Like, there isn't much space. I can't build anything here. So model railroading requires a lot of space. I just don't have that. My model railroad is in the garage right now, but I haven't given up on it. Like, I spent way too much money over the course of 10 years to give up on it. Um, but I will begin working on it again when I move to my new apartment, because I'll have more room there. I'll actually have a dedicated space where I can set up the model railroad and make videos about it, for both this channel and a second channel. I plan to make a second channel, which, like, remember how I told everybody that, when I do my like tea service and stuff every day, and I do live streams, I'm going to do live streams of that every day and stuff like that. That's going to be on my second channel. So the second channel will be more personal. It'll be like everyday things that I like to share with people, like building model railroads, repairing my Titanic model, building other ship models, having afternoon tea every day. Like, that will be all on the second channel, while this channel remains talking about specific history. So I'll let everyone know when the second channel is up, but it's not. I have to move first. Like, there's no time to do any of that stuff here. So I'm not into modern cruise ships. Like, my friend is, kind of, and he's asked me, because I told him, I was like, hey, I want to take a trip on the Queen Mary 2 and go to England sometime. And he goes, great. And he goes, well, what about these other cruise ships? I'm like, no. I was like, I'm not a cruise ship person. I only want to go on the Queen Mary 2 because it's not a cruise, it's a transatlantic crossing, which there is a difference. I'm not a cruise ship person. Jennifer says, can you do a video on more of the history of the Queen Mary? Yes, I'm so sorry about not doing... I know everyone's been waiting for me to make a total history video of something about the Queen Mary, and I haven't done that in a couple of months, and I'm so sorry. It's because I've been trying to put out different content to get different kinds of people here, but I am currently working on a video about the war years that the Queen Mary spent in World War II. So it might be a multi-part video because I think it might be too long to make one video, so I'll have to split it up into maybe 2 or 3 parts. But it will be a really cool video discussing the history and the involvement that Queen Mary had in the war, and some cool stories about how like Winston Churchill had planned the storming of Normandy in one of the ship's bathtubs on the Queen Mary. There's really cool. I have so many books on the Queen Mary, and they each have like an interesting little war story. Like one was like a guy described his experience. His bunk was built over the first class swimming pool, so we kind of talked a little bit about that. And so there's gonna be more history videos about the Queen Mary, and in between that there's gonna be discussion videos. So like I have one where I'm gonna discuss what's wrong with the first class swimming pool. Why do people think it's collapsing, and is it really collapsing? And so I've got that in the works, and and then I've got a video about my ideas for how you can make the Queen Mary a successful tourist attraction. So in between the history videos will be fun little topic videos that I think will interest people. So that is all coming up next. But yes, I'm hoping that the first war years video of the Queen Mary will be out at the beginning of January. I can't say exactly when, but I am working on it right now. Well, except for right now because I'm on the live stream, but I am working on it. Let's see. California Coast Rail says, thank you for making the Disneyland Railroad videos. You're welcome. Jeremy Fowler says, you lose weight, you definitely lost weight. Thank you so much. I don't know, but that'd be cool if I did. George says, Alex is super cute. Thank you. Jake Goodwin says, Alex, have you ever been to New Zealand? If so, where? I've never been to New Zealand, but I think it would be cool to go there one day. I would like to see New Zealand. Disney is all about money now. Yes, it is. It's all about money now. AP became a babysitting service. Oh, like annual pass? Well, yeah, I can kind of see that. Customers create the magic. See, I'm going to kind of scroll up through all these. Let's see. The MV Queen of the North. Okay, I'll look that up. Drew, the Disney Maniac, says, hello, I'm new here. Hello, Drew. Welcome. Michael C. says, I was a teen when Titanic came out, so the only reason I went to see it was for the dirty scene. Oh my gosh. I don't know, when I first saw the dirty scene, I was kind of like, okay, what does this have to do with the story? Oh my gosh. I was more interested in the Titanic than I was the dirty scene. Long Beach prior to their cruise embarkation. David Woodbury says, many cruise ship passengers who arrive to Long Beach prior to their cruise embarkation visit the Queen Mary prior to their trip. This is something that is not promoted by the city. That's true, they don't promote it. There's a lot of things that they're missing out on. But then again, the city isn't really in charge of the Queen Mary's day-to-day operations. That's not what a city is meant to do. The lessees, whoever operates the ship, should be on top of that stuff. They don't. I mean, back when Urban Commons was operating the ship, I was looking at the entertainment schedule. They had a hoedown planned. I mean, forget the fact that hoedowns are like a cultural thing from the American South. A hoedown hasn't been popular in decades, since like the 1960s. Why would Urban Commons schedule a hoedown on the British ocean liner Queen Mary? And people tell me, oh, Alex, the Queen Mary can't be successful. And I'm like, no, it can. Just don't host hoedowns on it. No one wants to go to a hoedown on the Queen Mary. That's not what the ship is about. Like, the Queen Mary can be successful, but no one knows how to run it. Like, come on. You've got Disneyland a few miles away. Just take a page from their book, look at how they run their place, how they, how they create parties and stuff for people, and just bring that to the Queen Mary. Like, that's what people want. They want Disneyland, but without all the money and the crazy long lines for the rides. It's like, it's not hard, people, So I never understood why they couldn't just have some imagination with the Queen Mary. But people who operate the Queen Mary never have imagination. All they can think of is, oh, well, let's push the haunted aspect, and let's make bigger and bigger haunt mazes every year. And it's like, okay, the haunt mazes make you money during Halloween, but not for the rest of the year. You can't keep a business viable by focusing on one aspect that happens once a year. You have to do something that is viable throughout the year, and that's what they don't understand about business. Let's see. Yeah, some people don't like the movie Titanic because, let's face it. James Cameron is no Shakespeare. Shakespeare is no Shakespeare. But still, James Cameron is no Shakespeare. But I think the movie prior to the sinking is fun, and then during the sinking is sad, and I think it delivers on the things it needs to deliver on. And that's why I like Titanic. But like, you watch his movie Avatar. Avatar is fun to watch, but it's by no means a good story. But it's fun. So I believe that some movies should just be fun. Problem is that in the last 10 years, no one's made a good movie. Everyone's just made fun movies. And like I said, it's okay for some movies to be fun, but I miss when we would have like a good movie that made you think, like now you have to go to like Netflix or something to find a good movie. It's sad. Not that it's sad to find good movies on Netflix. It's sad that Netflix is like one of the few places you can find a good movie on, Trico says, I remember feeling uneasy when I went into the engine room at the Queen Mary. Yeah, these places on the ships can sometimes feel a little bit weird. The other thing, too, you have to remember about the Queen Mary is, like, a lot of people go, like, ooh, the hallways of the Queen Mary are so spooky. And I thought about that. I'm like, I don't think the hallways are spooky. I think they're pretty. But then I thought about, like, what makes them look eerie? It's not necessarily that they're always empty. I figured it out. It's the lights. The Queen Mary used to have incandescent lights, which gave a nice, beautiful yellow, golden glow to the hallways. It looked beautiful. But they currently have fluorescent lamps that make the wood look green. Now, you don't believe me? Look at pictures of modern-day Queen Mary. Look at the hallways. When the fluorescent lamps shine on the wood, it looks green. And people don't realize it, but subconsciously that makes the hallway look eerie. You don't expect this weird tinge of green. It just looks uneasy in a hallway like that. Especially when you can't see the end of the hallway because the ship curves with shear. So that's why the ship looks so creepy most of the time. People don't realize it. It's the fluorescent lamps. And I discovered that myself. And I was like, well, that's one of the first things. If I owned the Queen Mary, one of the first things I'd do besides making sure the ship had a proper working bilge pump system is replace all the fluorescent lamps with LED incandescent lookalikes. You can't put incandescent bulbs in the ship anymore, primarily because no one makes them anymore. But LED lookalikes have gotten really good in recent years. So you can get some good LED lookalikes, and the LEDs will last for years. These lamps in my room are LED lights, and I've had them for 2 years, and they're still going strong. Nothing wrong with them. And an incandescent bulb will last a month. So. Zomgame says, okay, Alex, last question about Keewatin. If you lived closer to Keewatin, would you visit it? And what would you do on board? Well, I mean, I don't know what there is to do on board, but what I would do is, if I could visit the SS Keewatin, I would film as much of the outside as I could, and then I'd go inside and film as much of the inside as I could, walking very slowly and methodically through the different rooms and hallways, capturing everything in 4K, so that way when I do research later, I have plenty of B-roll footage to refer to, and I can post videos that show the documentation of the ship. So kind of like how I did I don't know if you guys saw this, but on my channel I have a Queen Mary virtual tour video, so you can walk through, so you can see me go to various rooms on the Queen Mary. I'd do that, but better. So I would actually do a more thorough job, because back then I was filming a vlog. I didn't know I was going to make a bunch of history videos out of that. So I didn't bother to film it nicely. I just walked around the ship and pointed the camera everywhere. But I would do a much better job. I'd walk through the entire SS Keewatin from top to bottom and carefully film everything in 4K. So in case if something happened to the ship, there's a 4K, like, really nicely done footage of the whole ship, you know. And I could make tons of videos out of that, which is what I plan to do for the Queen Mary. When the Queen Mary reopens, I plan to go there, film every inch of the ship I can get to. I will even bribe people to get into the other rooms that I need to get into if I have to. I want to film every inch of the Queen Mary, because if something happens in the next 2 years and the ship has to close again or something, you never know. I realized that, you know, when I last visited the Queen Mary and filmed the vlog, I thought, you know what? I'll come here anytime I want with my friends. I really thought that. I remember telling my friend Chris after we left the Queen Mary that day, I said, you know what, we should come here again. He said, what about next month? I said, yeah, let's do it. Let's come back next month. We never did. We postponed and postponed. Oh, I postponed and postponed. Because I thought the ship will always be here. I literally thought that to myself. I said, the ship will always be here. I'll come back. And then it closed for the pandemic. And it's been closed for almost 2 years. And now I realized, I'm like, no. If I visit these ships, if I see these beautiful places, I have to film it as much of it as possible, as methodically as possible, because I realized with these old ships, you never know what's going to happen. And the Queen Mary, I have so much hope for it, you know. So when I do visit the Queen Mary again, I'm going to film the entire thing, 4K, as much of it as I possibly can, film as much of the details of the ship. If I have to film 50 gigabytes of 4K footage, I will. SS Keewatin, I would do the exact same thing. Chris with the cases, I've actually been dying to go back to New Zealand, mainly because of the glowworm caves. Ooh, maybe I'll go with you, Chris. I don't know. Forgrim says, "Are they going to put better lights?" I don't think so. I don't think anyone is going to waste the money on better lights for the Queen Mary, but they should. The ship needs to have golden light like this. Like, there's a reason why I chose this light. It looks good, especially on the Queen Mary. Because, okay, here's an example. You see this wood shelf here? My friend Steve from Expedition Steve, he built that for me. I designed it and he built it. And one of the cool things is I have this yellow lamp beneath it. Well, I say yellow, but it's a soft white is what it is. Just like an incandescent bulb. And when it shines up at it, it looks gold. That's what the Queen Mary should look like on the inside. It should look like a golden wood. It should glow. And it doesn't. It looks like fluorescent lamp. Like a fluorescent lamp. Sorry, my brain's not working. Like a fluorescent lamp. It just doesn't... It looks weird. And it glows green. I'm not even kidding you. It glows green. That's not what it should look like. So yeah, I hope they do, but I doubt that they will. Michael C. says, "Are you a fan of the big Disneyland ships, Mark Twain SS Columbia?" Yes, I am, and I will be making a history video on the Mark Twain and Columbia and Rivers of America one day. I can't say when, but I will. I will have a video on it. Let's see. Remove the Russian sub. Yes, the Russian submarine next to the Queen Mary needs to go. Problem is that The previous owner to the Russian submarine is very elderly, lives in a nursing home. They are not capable of taking back the ship, or taking back the submarine, I mean. And. Oh, are we back? That was weird. Oh, I'm going to repeat what I said. The previous owner to the Russian submarine is elderly, lives in a nursing home, too old to take back the submarine and do something with it. The current owners of the submarine, no one knows who they are, because the previous owner left the submarine in charge by Urban Commons. Urban Commons claims, well, hey, we don't legally own it, but neither does the previous owner, and even if he did, he's too old to deal with it. So currently, the Russian submarine has no owner. Therefore, there's no one to pay the $2.5 million it will cost to remove it. The Russian submarine is beyond repair. It is basically worn to rags. It is so bad that if they try to remove it from the water, it'll fall apart as they remove it. It's totaled. It can't be refurbished. It's done. But that's just the problem. It's going to cost nothing but money that has to go down the drain, literally. So no one wants to pay for it. Unfortunately, the Russian submarine, first of all, it's in the way. I mean, every time I wanted to take pictures of the bow of the Queen Mary, there was the rusting hulk of the submarine. I was like, this is in the way. I need a good picture of the Queen Mary. But secondly, you know, who's going to pay to take it out of there? No one has that money. We'll see what they do, though. The city could use their powers of what do they call it, eminent domain, and then pay the money themselves to remove it. But again, that's $2.5 million to remove it and throw it out. Brandon S. says, hi Alex, liked your Why Did Ocean Liners Disappear video, and that's how I found your channel. Great work, and thank you for the content. Thanks so much, Brandon. Glad you like it. I'll have plenty more ocean liner videos to come. Let's see. Joanne says, the Russian sub near the Queen Mary kind of makes the Queen Mary have a bad first impression. Who even thought that that was a good idea to put the Soviet sub next to a beautiful, majestic British ocean liner? I agree, right? You know, like, I agree. I told my friend, I said, there was a kind of funny irony about that. I said, the Queen Mary, for 7 years during World War II, did everything it could to avoid submarines. And now it's got one sitting right next to it. Which, ironically, if it sinks and damages the Queen Mary, could sink the Queen Mary. The irony, right? Okay. Jennifer says, do you think the years Queen Mary spent in World War II is a big reason for its ghosts? Maybe. Like I said, I've never fully seen a ghost on the Queen Mary. I've seen a shadow figure only once, and that was all I ever saw pertaining to ghosts. So I can't say whether or not that any other ghosts on the Queen Mary have something to do with World War II, but I wouldn't doubt it, honestly. I think that probably plays a big part, because a lot of people died on the Queen Mary during World War II. We just don't know how many, because the U.S. Navy has never mentioned it. Charlie says, you ever ate at the fancy restaurant on top of the Queen Mary? No, we planned to when we were going in 2020, but it was closed. We were literally going to eat there that night. It was closed. Thorgrim says, if the bay is deep enough, can't they just sink it? No, because I mean, it all goes back to how when you sink things in a natural environment, you have to clean it up and make it, you know, ready for disposal. It would cost a lot of money to clean up the submarine, and also the rest of the harbor really isn't that deep. The Queen Mary, where it sits in its little, you know, rock-surrounded lagoon, they dug that out to make it deep enough for the Queen Mary to sit there. But the rest of the harbor is not that deep. The rest of the harbor is maybe 20 feet deep. So that boat so the submarine, if they sank it in the harbor, it would just sit in the way. It's really not that deep. Unless they went further out, but even still, it's not a good idea to sink unnatural things in a natural landscape. It's just not a good idea, especially without cleaning it up and stuff, which just costs a ton of money anyway. Like I said, the thing's going to fall apart when you take it out of the water. It's like worn to rags. I'm not even kidding. It would be like a soggy piece of cereal that you're trying to pull out of the milk. It would just fall to rags. So you wouldn't be able to sink it anyway, even if you wanted to. It would just be a mess to deal with. Alex, have you seen the QA2 in front of the Twin Towers? One of the only Cunard ships going in front of the Twin Towers. Well, I mean, the Twin Towers were around from the 70s all the way to the early 2000s. Yeah, I guess that's right then, because technically the last Cunard ship was QE2. Yeah, you're right. That was the only Cunard ship to ever cross in front of the Twin Towers. That's interesting. Never thought about it that way. John M. Spencer says, Alex, can you live stream yourself at Disneyland? I've tried in the past. Their Wi-Fi is so terrible. I can't live stream at Disneyland. It looks awful. Ask anybody who's seen my Disneyland live streams. They look awful. It's not possible. And finally, Jake Owen says, you should play Stormworks and play with all the ships and trains in the game workshop. Okay, I'll check it out. Alright, folks, I'm going to end the live stream there. Thank you so much for watching. I just wanted to hang out with you guys. This is like the last live stream of the year. So I wanted to say Happy New Year. Thanks for joining me. There's going to be lots more videos on this channel to come and a separate channel that is more personal where I'll show you more of my hobbies and interests. And possibly every day you can hang out with me on that channel on a live stream. But all that is to come this coming year. Hopefully everything will be a lot better this coming year, and maybe I'll be able to travel. Who knows? We'll see. I'm really excited for what's to come. I'm really hoping 2022 will be a good year because I have so many plans that I want to do, and it would be great if I could just get out of the house and film some things. Anyway, thank you all so much. Happy New Year's, everybody. I hope you have a great time with your friends and your family, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye. Let's see, how do I end this thing?